I seem to be doing a pretty good job of me.
Hello, Justin.
Oh, hello there, mister.
Well, I hope you didn't spend a lot of money for that shirt. Somebody sure rooked you on that material. Look at that. Got too many holes in it.
Carbondale, welcome to Baha'i Focus. Baha'i Focus is a local production of the Carbondale Baha'i community. It's shown here on Channel 7, Carbondale Cablevision. Our guest today is Avery Crim. Everybody fondly calls her Mama. Thank you for coming on Baha'i Focus.
Thank you.
Avery is a Baha'i.
Yes.
And how many years have you been a Baha'i?
I've been Baha'i about 10 years.
10 years. What is it about the Baha'i faith that that you wanted to investigate it?
Well, reason I became a Baha'i is that I sat down and I read The Thief in the Night. I started in the middle of the book. It was on a Sunday morning, and it got so good to me. I got to understanding so much about a thing that I didn't know, that I have to begin in the beginning of the book, The Thief in the Night. That's the one that I like the best.
That's the book Thief in the Night by William Sears.
That's right, that's right. And after I read The Thief in the Night, I believed. I believed in the Baha'i faith.
Thief in the Night is a book about Christian prophecies.
Right.
And Baha'u'llah fulfills the Christian prophecies.
That's right.
What was your background before you were Baha'i?
I was a Baptist, and I was baptized in the Baptist church. And before then, I was a Presbyterian. My husband was a Presbyterian. And so when I moved to Joppa, we didn't have a Presbyterian church there, so we became Baptist, Free Will Baptist there in Joppa. And so, well, one thing I didn't like about the Baptist church is when they took sacrament, it was just only the Baptists that they gave it to. And I didn't like that, because all Christians should be able to take part of Christ's body, not just the Baptists, all of them. So I never did like that.
Was it much of a transition, do you think, from Baptist to Baha'i?
No, I don't think it was. It was just that I just believed there would be another one come, and Baha'u'llah was him, and so it wasn't no transition at all. It was just a case of moving up.
Okay. What was the reaction of your friends?
Well, they reacted a little strangely towards me. One of them met me in the street one day. Said, they tell me that you have left the church. I said, yes, I've left the Baptist church, but I haven't left God. I said, I serve God just like you do. The same God that you serve, I'm serving him. I said, I haven't left him. But I haven't had any other problems like that.
I think, let's go back a little bit. Your story starts really quite a bit before you started reading the book Thief in the Night.
Yeah.
Who was the first Baha'i in your family?
I believe that was Dempsey, my oldest son. He was going to school at Southern then, and so he was what you call an elder in the church, in the Baptist church.
Oh, he was? I didn't know that.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. And so he was going to school at Southern, and he would come home on the weekends, and I would try to get him to go to church, and he wouldn't. And so he told me about this, about the Baha'i faith. And I said, you disrespectful to Christ. And he said, no, I'm not, Mama. I said, yes, you are. I didn't understand. I just didn't understand. And that's what it is, just ignorance of not knowing what's going on. And so he didn't pressure me to become a Baha'i. He didn't pressure me no way at all. He just said that he wasn't going back to church again because he found something better. And so that's when he left that book there. He didn't leave it there for me. I said, Mama, here's the book. He didn't do that. The book was just happened to be laying there.
I think then your daughter Fern decided to go and bring Dempsey back into the fold a little bit. And what happened with Fern?
Well, 4 was old, she became a Baha'i. She was in the Baptist church too. Fern was going to school to Southern too. And after she found out and read about it, well, she became a Baha'i too.
Seems to be a chain reaction going on here.
Yes.
Who was next in line?
Let's see. I think that was my third son, Al, he become Baha'i. He said, if it's good enough for Mama, it's good enough for me. And so he become Baha'i, and he was married and going to school down in Missouri. And so his wife become a Baha'i too after he became a Baha'i.
It seems to be a bit of it's almost an epidemic, it seems like.
In my family.
In your family. Who was it next after Al then?
Al, I think that was Tommy the next. He went to school at Berea, and he accepted it. And there's a group of Baha'is down in Berea. And then after that was Cindy, and she was going in the Navy, and so she become a Baha'i, and she took that prayer in the Baha'i book down there with her, and she couldn't swim, and she said one of those prayers out of the Baha'i book, and shoot, she swam like a fish, and so she passed her test.
Oh, really?
Yes, right.
So you're saying there's almost miraculous powers that go with this thing.
That's right.
Just where in this line of people did you become a Baha'i? Where did you fit in there? Were you in the middle or at the end?
I was the third one after Dempsey, and then Fern, and then me.
Oh, you were actually before Fern then?
Yeah, Fern was a Baha'i before I was.
I can remember Fern telling stories that you were kind of against the faith at the beginning.
Yes. Me and Dempsey had a lot of arguments because he was. You know, he was a traitor to Christ. Everybody knows that because he wouldn't go to church. And not going to church was, I didn't know that the Baptist was something and Christianity was something else. I realize now, Christianity, to love Christ, you're a Christian first and then a Baptist. I always thought it was just the Baptist or the Presbyterian. And I didn't know where Christianity fit in at. I just didn't know. But I realize now that everybody is a Christian. Christianity and Christ. And the Baptist and Presbyterian, Catholic, all those are secondary to being a Christian.
What are some of the Baha'i teachings that really appealed to you?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, one thing I really liked was that man and woman are equal. It's just like a bird. Say it takes two wings to fly, a bird to fly level. And that's the Baha'i faith, believe man and woman, God created those men and women equal. Well, and before them, no. The man was superior to the woman. And since then, I found out, no, God created them equal.
That's the idea that that men and women are like two wings of a bird. Unless that they are equally developed, that the bird cannot really fly
like it should.
This really carries on to other areas of life, but that's a really common Baha'i concept.
And that the white and the black, it's no difference. They're just people. God created them. And so one is no better than the other. You take a brain of a white person, lay it out, and a black one, lay it out, and tell somebody to come in and pick them out, you couldn't do it to save your life. So they're equal. They're just people. They all have the same aspirations of wanting things for their families and their children. Both of them do.
I think it really just goes way beyond being equal. It's something that I've found that as a Baha'i that you get the races coming together and it adds just so much more to life. It's just so much more beautiful that the Baha'i writings talk about the races of people as many different colored flowers in the garden.
That's right.
It's only when the different colors all come together, their diversity and their textures and their colors and their fragrances, and that the garden really becomes more beautiful.
It's beautiful.
This is probably the only organization that I've ever seen that has successfully really united the races together. And it's not just black and white, it's all races.
That's right. We come together. All of us do. That's
why I mentioned at the opening of the program that everybody really just kind of calls you Mama, and that's really true. You're kind of the Mama of all the Baha'is of Southern Illinois. Everybody in Southern Illinois, all the Baha'is love this lady, so you're looking at somebody really special here.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Is there anything, any other teachings that you'd like to comment on that you like?
Well, to tell you the truth, I like them all. I like them all. Since I've become a Baha'i, I've understood more about the Bible, about the Quran, and about our Kitab our holy book. They're all the same. It's just becoming a different period of time. It's just that Baha'u'llah come from this day and age, where Muhammad was 1,000 years ago and Christ was 2,000 years ago. They're all one and the same, only it's just now. And when you are Christian and haven't moved up to be, well, you say a Muslim, you missed out there. And if you miss out there and miss out on the Baha'i faith, you are really missing out on a lot. And the Quran is a beautiful book. It really is. It tells you more about Christ than the Bible does. If you want to know about Christ, you should read the Quran.
Well, who is Baha'u'llah? The founder of the Baha'i faith is named Baha'u'llah. Who do you think he is?
Who do I think he is? He's a messenger from God, just like Christ, and just like Muhammad, just like Moses, and all the rest of the prophets. That's who he is.
Is there any difference between these messengers?
No, no difference whatsoever. Only they came at a different time, a different period in history.
They come from the same source.
Same source, bring the
same
same message. They're all one and the same in the sight of God. It's just man that makes the difference.
When did Baha'u'llah live?
It was back in 1844 is when he declared his mission.
Just right around that area, yeah. He lived about 100 years ago. So you sincerely believe that a prophet of God came 100 years ago?
Sure. How can we think it? I don't believe that. I believe in Christ. I believe he came. I believe in Muhammad came. I believe Moses came. How can we think God can't send nothing if he wants to?
Makes sense to me.
In 1,000 years from now, to be another one.
You said that you were reading the book Thief of the Night, where it talks about some of the Christian prophecies. Do you have anything you could share with us with that?
Well, they said he would come from the way of the east, and he did. Persia's east from the Holy Land even.
Yeah.
And he said that, well, now I don't know so much about that coming down in the clouds. I don't know so much about that. I never could figure that one out because they said clouds is gas that rises from the earth. That's right.
Well, that's what I think every time a prophet comes, they expect miraculous things to happen when he appears, and for the most part, they always come as normal people. And
yeah, they do.
it's their message that is unique and is special. You took a trip recently.
Yes, yes. My son, my oldest son, took me on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land.
To Israel. Tell me about that.
Well, that was the first time I'd ever rode an airplane.
Oh, yeah?
And I thoroughly enjoyed it. But to get to the Holy Land and to be over there where Baha'u'llah walked and where the Bible's buried, it's in another world. It's so beautiful. It's just breathtaking. It's paradise right here on earth, right there. And I wish and I recommend that trip to everybody that's Baha'i, because you would understand what it's like to be in heaven, because it was just the same as being in heaven there. The rose garden, the flower garden, the trees, the landscape, and everything was just immaculate. It's just beautiful.
I was talking with the Jewish rabbi in Carbondale recently, and he's been to Israel twice, and the last time there he visited the Baha'i World Center in Haifa, Israel. And he remarked that it is one of the most beautiful places in Israel.
It's one of the most beautiful places on the earth.
That's probably true.
It's true.
Israel, for the most part, is fairly barren.
It's a hill. It's a mountain. That's where the gardens is, on the mountain.
Mount Carmel.
Mount Carmel.
Yeah. In the Bible, it says that the glory of God will come to Mount Carmel.
And it is.
Yeah.
And we had a room in the Hotel Noor, and it looked down over the bay, and it looked down on this garden, Baha'i Faith garden, and you could see the temple, the top of the temple of the Bab, where the Bab is buried at. It's shone in gold, this gold dome. And at night it lit up, and it was bright, and it's breathtaking. It's just simply breathtaking.
What do you do on pilgrimage? What is...
We visit the shrine of the Bab, we visit the shrine of Baha'u'llah. We go in And when you go into one of those shrines, you go in there. You just go in there and you say, well, I'm going in here and see what this is like. And before you leave in there, you're saying a prayer. And tears is rolling down your cheeks. You don't know what has come over you. You got a feeling that's come over you that you can't get no place else in the world. Like you can in the tomb of the Bab and Baha'u'llah. And I said to my son Dempsey, I said, Dempsey, I didn't get that feeling when I went in Abdu'l-Baha's tomb. He said, Mama, you wasn't supposed to get it. So he's not who the Bab and Baha'u'llah is. I said, I felt guilty because I didn't have that feeling. But I had a feeling that it just simply it just makes you feel so good. And every time I think about it, I have that same feeling. That same feeling come over me.
So some of the people I talk to who have been there say that it's almost like coming home, like being home for the first time.
I don't know, this thing, something washes over you, and you don't have a care in the world. There's nobody in that room, and it's 15 or 20 people in that room, but it's nobody there but you. You don't have no feeling of nobody else. It's just like God's talking to you and nobody else. It's something.
It's really powerful.
Yes, it is.
It's also unique that when you go there, you are also among the Baha'is from all corners of the world.
All corners of the world.
The Baha'is from all over the world come there.
New Zealand, Brazil, California. It's people, I didn't know anybody there but my son. But you would thought we was one big family. Everybody looked after everybody else, and everybody was happy. You didn't see no frowns. You seen smiles. You see tears when you see them come out of the Bab tomb or the Baha'u'llah tomb. They were crying because they were happy. Have you ever been?
I've never been there, no.
Man, you got to go. That's
I'll go.
You got to go. And then when you go, you'll understand what I'm saying. You'll understand them more so than you do now, if you ever go. Because Bonnie and Junior went. They said, Mama, y'all got to go. Oh, we'll go sometimes. And so Dempsey said, Mom, we'll go this year. Of course, that's been about 2 years ago. And so we went, and we said, we thanked him when we come back. And so now we're telling our other children. Tommy, he's got a job now. He said, that's first on my agenda, is to make that pilgrimage. And I want them all to go, because and then they'll understand what I'm talking about. Until you do, you don't understand. You think you do, but you don't understand.
Were you there when they had, they must have still been working on the building for the House of Justice?
Yes. They had finished it, but they didn't have the furniture and stuff on the inside of it. But they had finished it. We got to go in and look around. But they didn't have the rugs and the lamps and the tables in like they have now.
This was it's the World Administrative Center of the Baha'i Faith. This is really going to be the focus for Baha'u'llah's government.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I didn't get to go down in the basement. They got a place down there for parking your cars. I didn't get to go down in there. I got sick about 4 days on the pilgrimage. I got sick with the flu. But Dempsey got to go down in there, and they got computers. And they got places to park your car. They said that building cost $20 million to build, and it is beautiful. It is beautiful.
Did you go into the archives building?
Yes, I did.
What did you see there that you liked?
Well, I seen the picture of Baha'u'llah in there. I seen his photograph.
That's one of the unique things about the Baha'i Faith. For the first time, we know what the Prophet looked like.
Yes. We seen his clothes. We seen his shoes. We seen his room where he stayed at. But in this archive, it's clippings of his hair, and the clothes he wore, and the shoes he wore, and a picture of him, and a picture of the Bab. It's just...
And the actual writings?
Yes, the actual writings.
I think in a lot of ways that I would really like to see that.
Yes, you would really enjoy it too. And we went to where is the house of Where is his house at there, right close to his tomb?
House of Abud?
That's right. We went up to his bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And there on his bed is his hat, sitting on his bed that he slept in.
That's Baji.
Is it Baji?
Uh-huh.
And they had rose petals all the way around that hat.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't pick those rose petals. You left those rose petals.
Uh-huh.
And he had a pair of shoes sitting there under his bed. And I wanted to bend down and kiss them shoes, but I said, no, I won't bother. But they showed where, you know, how his leg was swelled up there. One of his legs was swelled up. And the shoes just showed that. And they were just right there for you to see, for you to touch.
Right.
A prophet of God's shoes that you could touch.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about that. This is not something that you can't touch. It's something that you can touch and that you can feel. And you know it's real. You know he's real.
Something that I don't know how much people realize, but the intense suffering that Baha'u'llah had to endure, when he was in prison, when he was exiled, the suffering of his family, the suffering of his friends. In many cases he saw his friends die right before his eyes. He saw his children die. His own personal suffering was just something incredible.
And you know, he was a rich man.
Originally he was, yes.
Yeah. And they took all of that away from him.
Right.
They took all that away from him, and they was going to give him a big job in the government, and he said no, he didn't want that.
Right.
And so they took him, you know, just like, for instance, if you was rich and they take everything away from you, say, I'll give this back to you if you would deny God. He said, no, you got it. And go on by his business. He went to suffering. They done everything to him. He wasn't used to the hard life when they put him in that prison.
Yeah.
He wasn't used to that.
There's a passage in the Bible, in the 53rd chapter of Isaiah, that talks about a suffering Messiah. It says, by his stripes we are healed.
That's right.
And it says that he was put into prison, he was shut away from the world. And a lot of people think that this refers to Jesus, but if you read the rest of the passage, it says that it pleased God to bruise him. It pleased him to test him. He wanted to test him to make sure that he would have the qualities and the capabilities for the great mission that he had in the future. And then Isaiah goes on to say that God would not allow him to die. That it says God would greatly extend his years, and that he would live to see his children.
His children.
And this right there, I think, shows that this passage does not refer to Jesus, but to Baha'u'llah, because Baha'u'llah was in prison. He suffered intensely. He lived to be 75 years old.
And he did have children.
He had many children. Mm-hmm. And it also says, in reference to the same context, that this prophet that Isaiah foretold would come from the east. He would come to Mount Carmel, right where the Baha'i World Center is. He would come to Acre, which today is known as Akka, right at the foot of Mount Carmel. It says that he would come at a time when the Jews returned to Israel from all the corners of the earth.
And which they have.
And it's happened. It's happened. The Jews have returned. Baha'u'llah has come, and they put him in prison.
And this state of Israel, they made I don't know whether it was Abdu'l-Baha or Baha'u'llah, made a pact with the Israelites. Israel's there that they wouldn't teach the people the Baha'i faith, but they protect the Baha'i faith, the Israelites too.
The government of Israel asked the Baha'is not to teach within Israel because really there's so few people there that they didn't want all of Israel to become Baha'is. So the Baha'is agreed not to teach in Israel, and so they don't. For someone to become a Baha'i in Israel, they have to actually physically leave the country, become a Baha'i, and then come back.
Right. And you be walking down the street there, they say, oh, you're Baha'i, you're Baha'i, you're a Baha'i. And so they know that they can tell the Baha'is to come there. They come there on pilgrimage. And we, while we was there at the center, the Baha'i Center, they would bring tours in there. They bring people in there. They would tour those gardens. They would have weddings in that garden. It was just that beautiful. But the people there that wasn't a Baha'i didn't get the feeling when they went in those tombs that you get when you went in Baha'u'llah's tomb and you went in the Bab's tomb. They didn't get that. A
lot of people when they go in there think it's just a church or just a building.
Well, it's not. it's the closest thing to God that you can get. It's right there. And when you lay your head down there on that, it's a concrete slab. I don't know, it's a marble slab. That's right there in front of
the threshold of the door that goes into the room.
And you lay your head down there, your cares, everything just leaves you. You're just a different person. You're just a different person. You don't know who you are. I just can't explain it to you.
There's a Islamic saying that says, "Blessed is he who visits the visitor of Akka." And of course, Akka is where the Baha'i World Center is, and it is a blessing for us to visit with you about this, to talk about it. And Israel is a very special place, and Jerusalem is a very special place.
Yes, it is.
To the Baha'is, Haifa, Mount Carmel is a very special place. Mount Carmel is, as we've mentioned before, has been singled out in the Bible as the place where the glory of God will come. It's in Isaiah, it's in Micah, it's in several of the books that he will come to Mount Carmel.
Being a Baha'i has brought a peace of mind to me that I haven't had. I never had before, but I have it now. It's just fantastic. That's all. It's fantastic. And I get little, I don't know what you say, when I try to tell somebody about the Baha'i faith and they don't understand. My son would say to me, he said, "Mama, remember now, you know that me and you had a time before you become a Baha'i. So, you have to be careful about this." I said, "People just don't understand." I just think everybody could see that. You know, the guy has sent another messenger. But he said, "Mama said, now remember, now you didn't see it. It takes a special person to see this. You got to go at it with an open mind. And if those that don't see it, has got a veil before this face. It's a special thing that God allowed you to see it."
Right.
And you know, I'm so happy that he did.
A lot of times you have to realize that when someone becomes a Baha'i or someone decides to investigate the faith, that it's not you, but if they're not ready, as far as I'm concerned, it's because God doesn't want them to be ready yet, that there's something else for them to do.
He said it's something you've done in your life that made God let you become a Baha'i, that allowed you to become a Baha'i. So it's a special privilege to be a Baha'i. Not everybody is, could I say cut out for a Baha'i to be a Baha'i?
Go ahead.
Well, I don't think that.
Certainly, we've got probably several hundred people watching us right now. Anything you would like to say to them? You've got a lot of friends in Carbondale. You've got a lot of friends in Southern Illinois.
Well, that's what I want them to do, is become Baha'is. And they have a peace of mind that they have never had before in their life.
This is a lady here that, as she mentioned earlier, she was a Baptist. And her children started becoming Baha'is. And it bothered her. It troubled her. And it angered her. She thought that they were turning away from the church. She thought that they were turning away from Jesus. But as she began to investigate it, she began to realize that not only were they not turning away from the church, but they were actually becoming a part of the regeneration of the church and the regeneration of the religion. And we would sincerely like to encourage people to investigate the Baha'i faith, to check it out, to read about it. Baha'is don't force people to do anything. If you want to know about it, the information's there. The information is in the Carbondale Library. There's a Baha'i phone number in the phone book. If you want to call and talk about it, fine. The doors are wide open, so by all means, don't shut yourself out.
And we love Jesus. You've got to love Jesus before you can love Baha'u'llah.
Several of the people, when I first became a Baha'i, that helped bring me into the faith, I would say that 5 or 6 of them were former Jews. And one of them told me one day that to become a Baha'i, you first have to accept Jesus.
Right.
And he had trouble with that. He'd been told his whole life that Jesus was not a prophet because he was a Jew. And he said, Baha'u'llah says that Jesus is a prophet. Okay, I'll accept it. And it says it wasn't until that he began to investigate this in Baha'i study classes that he really accepted Jesus.
That's right. That's right. To become a Baha'i, you have to be loved Jesus and all the prophets, Moses, Muhammad, all of them.
We're just about out of time right now. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're talking right now with Avery Crim, affectionately known as Mama to everybody, and